This Week in Gaming with Naomi Kyle.
What's up, everyone? I'm Naomi Kyle, and welcome back to This Week in Gaming. This week, we're catching up on the latest on the Embracer Group, more Gear 6 buzz, everything you need to know from the Xbox Digital Showcase, the latest on the Lord of the Rings video game, and video game mashups you wouldn't expect. We've got all of this week's gaming news, so let's get started. As we've reported in previous episodes, Embracer Group has been going through a lot of changes and public scrutiny the past few months. And last week, Embracer Group announced that they will be splitting into 3 separate entities to maximize diversity and profitability among the group's assets. The split does not seem to be effective immediately, however, as according to the Embracer website, the distribution of shares is expected to take place within 12 months. During the announcement, Embracer revealed the names and responsibilities of each of the companies. As Maude Group will oversee tabletop games like Catan and is focused on the development of other board games, trading cards, and collectibles. Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends will be responsible for creating AAA experiences from IPs such as Tomb Raider, Metro, Deus Ex, Dead Island, and of course, Lord of the Rings. And the final company, Coffee Stain and Friends, is tasked with focusing on the development of smaller titles like mobile, free-to-play, indie, A, and AA games. In case you didn't know, the A and AAA classifications are just that, a way to categorize what kind of game you're getting based on its scale, quality, and where it sits in the market. AAA titles are the big-budget blockbusters, while AA and A games are like indie films with much smaller budgets. I will say that this move by Embracer Group does seem to be a step in the right direction, what with all the backlash they faced just a couple months ago. Hopefully, this is them trying to right some of their wrongs. Here's hoping. 7 Days to Die is a 3D pixelated zombie survival game. Think Minecraft, but zombies. Okay, Minecraft, but with a lot of zombies. After a very successful Kickstarter, 7 Days to Die began its journey into early access way back in 2013. In gaming terms, that's forever ago. That's even before the launch of the Xbox One or PS4. Now, after spending 11 years in alpha, the developers of 7 Days to Die have announced that they feel confident enough to take the game out of early access and finally transition to a 1.0 version. The game will have its experimental launch in May, and the devs say that we can expect the 1.0 version to be stable enough to officially launch sometime in June of this year. There will also be a console release for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, though no official release date has been announced. Singer-songwriter Billie Eilish confirmed via a post on X that she would be headlining the latest season of Fortnite Festival. This announcement comes somewhat as a surprise, as it seems to add some validity to a suggested leak 2 weeks ago that predicted that Eilish would be the next artist to join Fortnite. Other artists included in the supposed leak were Metallica, Karol G, and Snoop Dogg. While news of Eilish coming to Fortnite doesn't 100% confirm that the leak is accurate, this means that we will be keeping a close eye on who is announced for Season 4. In the meantime, the release of Fortnite Festival Season 3 has been making waves in the rock band/guitar hero community. Back in 2021, Epic had acquired Harmonix, the company responsible for developing the Rock Band franchise. So now, in what seems like an obvious twist of fate, Season 3 has included support for Rock Band for guitar controllers. But don't go trading in your drum kit just yet. Epic said that they plan to have more instrument controller news to announce in the future. Okay, so maybe we will be getting Metallica next season, but until we get the official word, nothing else matters. A new Stardew Valley mod is in the works that might be the most delightful surprise mashup ever. Called Baldur's Village, the mod will blend characters from Baldur's Gate 3 into Stardew Valley's cozy world. Led by Shu and He 1145 and their team, the mod aims to introduce characters like Astarion, Shadowheart, Gale, and Halsin to Pelican Town. That's right, the modders have already created Baldur's Village, a new map with unique buildings, and are currently seeking translation support for future releases. While Astarion will have a distinct romance plot, and for now will be the only dateable character, the team hopes to add more dateable characters at a later date. The mod is expected to launch before Baldur's Gate 3's first anniversary, which should be this upcoming August 3rd. Huzzah! Speaking of delightful things, developer Weta Workshop and publisher Private Division have unveiled the first trailer for Tales of the Shire. It's a Middle-earth version of Animal Crossing. Yup, you heard that right. In it, players craft their own Hobbit character and spend their time in a town called Bywater. Your goal is to help make Bywater an official Hobbiton village by doing things like gathering fruits and herbs, farming, gardening, fishing, and trading, all the things hobbits love to do. To quote the press release, prepare homemade meals to share with fellow hobbits and foster relationships. With much to see and lots more to eat, enjoy days of splendor in the picturesque forests, lakes, and pastures. The game features a dynamic weather system, but perhaps my favorite feature of all is you can decorate your very own hobbit holes. The trailer didn't give us a release date, but it is set to come out sometime this year. Gears of War has been hard at work developing the next main title for the Gears franchise, but it has been 5 years since their last release, and fans are getting antsy. Well, wouldn't you know it, more evidence has cropped up that we might actually be getting a look at the next Gears game at the Xbox Showcase in June. A fan on X has recently asked Liam McIntyre, a voice actor in Gears 4 and 5, "So what's happening to JD?" To which the actor replied, "I have no idea. I think Gears of War tells us all in June." June is of course the month that the Xbox Showcase will happen, and a trailer for Gears has been heavily rumored to make an appearance. So either Liam has been listening to this podcast, in which case, thank you, or Liam knows something that we don't, and he is happily leaving us a trail of breadcrumbs. Speaking of Xbox, Xbox teamed up with the folks at IGN for the ID Xbox Digital Showcase. The show ran about 40 minutes and had reveals for heaps and heaps of indie games coming to Xbox consoles and Game Pass. Here are some of the highlights. 33 Immortals, a 33-player roguelite, was revealed, and the closed beta for 33 Immortals was announced, which runs from May 24th to June 2nd. Players can sign up at thunderlotusgames.com. Palworld gets an update to add even more pals later this summer. Game developers at Serenity Forge revealed 2 new games, Centum, a retro hero adventure, and Keylocker, a turn-based rhythm JRPG. Both are slated for a summer 2024 release. A 60-player battle royale kart racer, Stampede Racing Royale, comes later this summer. Jackbox announced its first M-rated game in the long-running Jackbox series with the Jackbox Naughty Pack, which we can expect later this year. The action-adventure boomer shooter Sulphur comes to Xbox later this year. Farah the Sundered Tribes is a co-op survival RPG. Looks like a blend between Breath of the Wild and Monster Hunter, and it is coming to PC later in 2024. The rodent-themed action RPG Tale of Iron gets a squeakle with Tales of Iron 2, Whisker of Winter. Unfortunately, there is no release window yet. Dungeons of Hinterberg, a cel-shaded puzzle platformer, comes to Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Game Pass July 18th. And finally, Vampire Survivors announced the laboratory update, including carts, guns, and a Contra DLC coming May 9th, with the werewolf hero Brad Fang from Contra Hard Corps joining the ranks. It looks as though BlizzCon, the annual convention where fans come to celebrate Blizzard's many beloved IPs, will be taking a hiatus this year. The timing of this decision seems rather unfortunate given that this year marks the 20th anniversary of Blizzard's flagship MMORPG, World of Warcraft, a significant milestone for the company. And though there won't be a BlizzCon this year, Blizzard is planning multiple global in-person events and other smaller events throughout the year, such as Gamescom, of course. It's important to note that this is not the first time BlizzCon has been canceled, however. It happened during 2020 and again in 2022 due to the turmoil surrounding the lawsuits filed against Activision Blizzard regarding workplace harassment. Fans speculate that this most recent cancellation could be due in part to the massive layoff of employees across Activision Blizzard and Xbox that happened just recently. It's also speculated that Blizzard will have a presence at the Xbox Showcase happening in June. Despite the cancellation this year, Blizzard is confident that their celebration event will return in some form in the future. Of course, we don't know if that will be in the form of an in-person event or a live online event like a Nintendo Direct. So, what will the future of events like E3 and BlizzCon be? Will Comic-Con be the next convention on the chopping block? Let me know what you guys think and tag me at Naomi Kyle on social. So that's the news this week. It's now time to chat with and welcome a new friend to the show. Maude Garrett joins us to chat about video game mashups and our expectations of the Lord of the Rings video game. Hey Maude, welcome to the show.
Hi Naomi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're finally on my show. I've guested on a couple of yours, so it's good to finally have you on my radio show, because you also helm from the radio world.
I do. I've been doing lots of radio in 2 different countries. It's vastly different, what the things that we've been talking about, but I love talking video games with you. So anytime we can do that,
yes,
I'm here for it.
Well, I'm sure you're going to be here for this one. The Stardew Valley mod that just came out. Well, it's in the works. It's not out yet. But yeah, the characters of Baldur's Gate 3 will now be a part of a Stardew thanks to this mod.
Thanks to this mod.
Yeah, Maude Garrett, Maude.
Yeah, I am. I'd like to think that I am the Stardew Maude out there because you and I have been playing a lot of Stardew lately. I love this game. I would have put the same amount of hours into Stardew as I have Baldur's Gate 3. So the fact that these two are getting kissy-kissy and mashing up and creating the ultimate spawn, I am so excited about. You showed me a picture of Asterion with a Stardew makeover. Now, this guy just keeps getting better and better.
Right. Better looking every time.
I just can't. Actually, now I can. I've just thought about it. I was like, Asterion, grabbing out the pitchfork or the hoe and tending to a farm. In what world? Our world. And I'm all about it now. How are they going to make that make sense, though? Because Baldur's Gate is very much high fantasy and Pelican Town is a quaint little farming town.
That's right. It's not really from his world, I wonder how they're going to make that work in terms of the storylines. And because he is a romanceable character. He's the only one until they add more characters later down the road. So what other romanceable characters? Well, let's first talk about how amazing it is that we can romance Asterion right out the gate.
This isn't new territory for me, romancing Asterion, but to do it in another game is amazing. You and I have been talking about who we've been romancing on our farm, and you're a big Elliot fan, and I was going to give Harvey the Doctor a go for the first time. We are going to be fighting over Asterion, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, it's going to
be. We're going to throw some hands.
Yeah, that's right. It also begs the question, what other characters, romanceable characters from the franchise? You played more Baldur's Gate 3 than I did. But if they were to bring in other characters, who should be next in line? And then what are some other ones that you would like to see? So
Karlach, for me, I would love to see in Pelican Town. The problem is she is very much a devil spawn type character. How do you explain that in a quaint farming town?
So it is a mod, so it's not part of the official Stardew Valley lore that we know of. So they could pretty much bring in anything from Baldur's Gate, is my assumption.
Okay, so Concerned Ape is one of my favorite game developers. He writes incredible music. He makes incredible games. But if you're going to start introducing tieflings and elves into a Pelican Town-esque type game, just play Sunhaven. Sunhaven is another game that was kind of like your Stardew Valley, your live, real-time strategy-esque type game, but your farm simulation, but with more of like a fantasy-esque twist to it. So you can go into sort of like the underworld as your tiefling. You can go into the forest with all the elves. That was a really, really fun game. I do like how Stardew Valley is expanding with mods. I honestly don't think you can do any wrong with that. But if you're impatient and you want to get your hands on something like this as soon as possible, I do recommend Sunhaven as a game because it will scratch that itch. In saying that, yeah, give me Karlach, the tiefling, absolutely. And as long as Gale doesn't show up ever, get rid of him. He's done. What a knob. No, can I say that? What a muppet.
You can absolutely say that, yeah.
Okay.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a really smart mod, by the way. I think that the fact that Stardew's having a resurgence right now, everyone's been playing it, and now they're bringing Baldur's Gate to that, as popular as that game was as well. I think it's going to be a really popular mod. I have an inkling.
I actually don't think we're going to get a Baldur's Gate 4 anytime soon. Right. So if there's any ways for Baldur's Gate 3 to keep expanding and expanding into different games, I'm all for it. I feel like when we look at sort of characters dropping in like that, the game that's been doing that the most lately is Fortnite. Sometimes it's super exciting, running around Han Solo with his blaster. That makes sense. That's awesome. You start introducing characters like Goku holding a gun, like Avatar, the Last Airbender, who was a pacifist, running around with an AK kind of weapon. That to me kind of like breaks the sanctity of what these characters mean and stand for. I
believe I'm in agreement.
So I like it when it makes sense. Yeah. I like it when it makes sense, not who can we get for the sake of it.
And I think Baldur's Gate 3, like you said, does make sense for Stardew Valley. Like the characters and just seeing them also in that pixelated form works so well. That being said, we're talking about kind of mashups, games that bring together other universes. What's a game mashup that you would love to see?
I'm trying to think of my favorite games, and I notoriously am a very, very big fan of the Legend of Zelda franchise.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to wonder how we could integrate another character or another game into that to make it even better. The first thing that's popping into my head, it's like, do we go to the ice stage or an ice level and Sub-Zero pops out and you're like, oh, that's an interesting monster to have to
weird.
fight.
It's an interesting mix.
Yeah. But that's where my brain went.
I'm thinking like it would bring in other Nintendo characters, would be kind of go the route of Smash Brothers, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you could have Kirby show up, but then also same idea that you said. It's like it kind of breaks the sanctity of what Zelda is, you know? What about Lord of the Rings or Hobbits?
See, I think Lord of the Rings has been a little bit of a hussy sometimes, and they're putting out games that maybe they shouldn't be putting out. I don't feel like Lord of the Rings lately, in terms of video games, have been focusing so much on quality than they have on quantity. I recently played a game called Lord of the Rings, the Return to Moria. And it was supposed to be sort of like an exploration builder-esque type game, survival somewhat. And it was so boring and so not exciting. I mean, maybe that's just because it's not my kind of game. Anytime there's a survival element, I kind of check out a little bit. But other games like that Gollum game that just looks like the plague and the pox all in one, with a grumbling, guttural voice thrown in. Like that to me, I feel like they're trying to milk Lord of the Rings, but they have to work within the confines of what's already out there. And that's what's really hard. And this isn't just in video games. This is also in television shows as well. The property itself is so expensive. And I think the fan base is very dedicated, but we were just talking earlier, how do you expand on perfection? And I think that Peter Jackson's done such an amazing job with the trilogy. And then you look at The Hobbit when it expanded into 3 movies when it should have only been 1, 2 max. It's Lord of the Rings as a franchise is feeling really cash cowy. And so I'm wondering, it's like, if they start appearing and fusing with other games, is that going to just feel like they're trying to make the money back?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, we just saw that there's a new trailer for the Animal Crossing, basically Lord of the Rings turned Animal Crossing video game. I don't know if you saw the trailer for it.
I didn't see the trailer, but I saw that it's the Tales of the Shire, which is a Lord of the Rings game. And I will say it looks freaking cute.
See, I think things like that, where they bring in like a different aesthetic, so it's not your typical Lord of the Rings, I think that's a route that they could stand to explore more.
And I also think that it's like, expand on what's not broken. Like the Shire is supposed to be quite cozy. It's about good food. It's about relaxation. It's about sort of making cute little tiny little houses and huts and hovels all throughout this gorgeous land. It's like that to me makes so much sense in an Animal Crossing sort of lifestyle, where it is a meditative kind of game. You go in there, you zone out, you enjoy, you grow your apple trees, you tend to your orchids. That in the Shire makes perfect sense. So I think that this game's super, super cute. I've just been a little bit burnt by Lord of the Rings games lately. So I'm not diving into this.
I might dive into it just because I loved Animal Crossing and I'm kind of itching for something that's like that. And this really seems to...
You do that. I'm going to be smooching a Starion in Stardew tomorrow.
Perfect.
You know?
We each have our own thing.
That's it. Okay.
Just keeps changing the game. I did want to talk about the Lord of the Rings Amazon video. So it's Embracer Group. Actually, you know, they bought the rights to Lord of the Rings 2 years ago for like some whopping, like crazy number, like $395 million. Yeah, $395. Yeah. The company is now split into 3 companies, and one of them is focusing primarily on AAA games called Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends, which is obviously their focus is going to be Lord of the Rings, the open world MMO adventure game that they're coming out. Does that speak to you? Because I feel like open world, everyone's like, yes, we've always wanted like a Star Wars open world, you know, and bring that to light. And now it's like there's a Lord of the Rings one that they're working on. They banked so much money into it already, just buying the rights.
Honestly, my initial thoughts is this is what Star Wars did about 10 years ago. They broke off and they were going to have different AAA studios handle different AAA Star Wars games. There was a Boba Fett game that was supposed to be either an MMO kind of game or an FPS shooter game. They did finally do the Star Wars MMO game that I feel like had potential, but we didn't really see the payoff for that as much. That was like the biggest overpromise and underdeliver that I'd seen in the last decade or so. This is feeling eerily the same. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. I do really want this to work. Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends sounds like a cash cow.
Right.
Middle-earth Enterprise? It sounds like the Monopoly man set up shop just outside of Mordor and he's like trying to get a capitalist sort of an enterprise happening with the Uruk-hai. Like what I want to see are Shadow of Mordor and then what was the sequel called? Shadow of War. They were amazing games.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't so much go into sort of like character. It was very much within the world of it. But the game schematics in that were some of the best that I'd played. I say just give us a third game in the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War series.
I'm on that same train. I would love to see that come back.
I'll play the heck out of it.
Yeah, I would love to see that come back. All right, well, Maude, thank you so much for being on the show. It was great to have you on for the very first time. I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely. Just pitching to anyone who may happen to be working for that studio, just hear me out. Shadow of Maude or...
That would be great.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Maude Garrett is a TV host and interviewer and founder of Maude's Book Club. You can follow her everywhere at Maude Garrett. Now, before I leave you, let's go over the video games releasing this week. Tuesday, April 30th, the Nintendo Switch timed exclusive Front Mission 2 remake and the twisted horror puzzler Tales from Candleworth creep over to all platforms. The musically motivated puzzle adventure game Lullaby of Life comes to PC and promises to come to consoles at a later date. After its announcement 4 years ago, the iconic time-bending puzzle platformer Braid Anniversary Edition will be coming to all platforms, including mobile. And yet another Xbox exclusive is jumping ship as the swashbuckling action-adventure game Sea of Thieves sails over to the PS5. Then on Thursday, May 2nd, the motorcycle racer MotoGP 2024 revs onto PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. Sklash, the 1v1, one strike, one kill fighter finds a new home on Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S. Surmount, a physics-based platformer about the joys of mountain climbing, grabs hold on PC and Nintendo Switch. Homeworld Vast Reaches puts you at the helm of commanding a fleet of starships through a vast universe. Then our next game shrinks you down to the size of a pea in the grounded clone Small Land Survive the Wilds VR. Both games can be found exclusively on MetaQuest 2 and 3. The pixel-perfect restaurant manager Toho Mistia's Izakaya and Endless Ocean Luminous, the third installment of the Endless Ocean series, are coming exclusively to the Nintendo Switch. And on the Epic Game Store, Industria and Lisa the Definitive Edition are both free to download from now until Thursday, May 2nd. And that's it for This Week in Gaming. I'm your host, Naomi Kyle, and I had the best time this week bringing you all the latest in games. Thank you so much for listening. Your listen makes a huge difference. Don't forget to let me know what you're playing and what you think about these stories by tagging me at Naomi Kyle on social. From all of us here at This Week in Gaming, we wish you a fun-filled week, and we'll see you again, same time, same place. Talk to you later.
This Week in Gaming is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more podcasts just like these.